Hey guys, so this is Caitlin, or better known as the new C.S. Lewis, with my writing career, and I'm with my friends here, and we're about to talk about writing today. So that's why you're hearing my lovely voice first before Dev the Doc. And so yeah, I guess we could just jump right into it. I guess I'll just say, with me as always.
Where's Dev the dog? Get off the stage.
You don't
It's
even
okay.
go
I'm here.
here.
I'm here. I'm right here. I'm right here to hold you and bring your ears together. Just enjoy it because I believe in C.S. Lewis. But do you? I believe in her if you do. I do. I believe in C.S. Lewis. I believe she can knock this out of the park. She can do it.
Yeah, I got
But
this.
also, but also with us is
Danapolis.
oh my god.
Also known as Phil.
Hi guys, I'm Janine.
Damn.
And I'm Wyatt, also known as the Black Bob Ross.
All right, so we got all of us now. You guys know our aliases and our nicknames and things like that. So mine, I like to call myself the new C.S. Lewis because my initials are C.S. Lewis. But of course, as you should probably know, if you don't, I'm sorry for you. That there was already a C.S. Lewis before. So I'm the new one, or the female version of C.S. Lewis. I don't know. What, take your pick. But anyways, so
Are you gender bent, C.S. Lewis?
yeah,
Oh, God.
exactly. Have my gender bent J.R.R. Tolkien friend. We hang out. I don't know, whatever. I'm going off the rail with that. Okay, so going into the topic of today's episode, I like to ask everyone that I know this question, but I'm more curious to my friends here that are more creatively inclined. And that the question is, what do they feel like makes a great story? Before I go into it, because I'm probably going to go more technically, but I kind of want to build off what my friends have to say about it. So I'm going to let them start with what they think makes a great story from their perspective, creatively, and all that other stuff. So, Dev, you want to take it away?
Sure. For me, what makes a great story is I believe in a character, a hero even, that the reader, watcher, listener can back, somebody that they can identify with. Because if the main character can't en- be engaging to the audience, then there's no point in us watching, listening, reading, or anything of that sort. So that's part of it. And the drama has to be, for me, heightened drama. But I come from a background of comic books where it's always heightened drama. It, you know, there's always something threatening the world, something that's, going to destroy the universe or something like that. So I'm all for big drama, a hero that you can back, and maybe a decent love interest. Just kind of depends on the story. That's another thing. Depends on the story. Horror stories are completely different from, say, a comic book story, or a big story in a video game where you're following the hero or playing as the hero. It just there's so many different variables. It's kind of depends on which one you jump into. For me,
So maybe could
so,
you have what you'd find an engaging main character to be, or
for me, it's a character that I see myself in. Some I'm pretty much an everyman for the most part, but I'm also deep in the shadows a great deal of the time. I'm reclusive a bit to myself, and if I find a hero who has to learn to step out of that to work to the greater good, then that makes me believe that I can do the same thing, or at least that's what it was like for me growing up, especially in reading comics. So yeah.
right? Yeah, that makes total sense. Having the character that you can really reach out to and grabs at least some aspect of them and attach.
Yep. So that's my thing. My biggest thing as far as a good story goes. It has to be a good, relatable hero and heightened drama.
All right. Bill?
Bill?
No. For me, a good story. I'm not really, big into perfect.
Into
I can't form thoughts. I can't form thoughts.
I'm not really into
Did I-
pause. Okay, I'm done.
I can't
Let's
form
try it.
thoughts right now. But I would say I'm not as big into written stories, I guess. Like stories written on paper. I'm more of a visual
Like
kind of guy.
books?
Yeah, books. I'm more of a visual kind of guy.
Okay.
All of my thoughts and everything come from visuality. Like I see in my mind works in like movies and stuff like that. So that's what I would
Yeah.
most relate to. So things that I can interact with, like video games, is something that I'm interested in. But a good I won't have any good examples of what makes a good story. I can give examples of what I think is a good story.
Yeah, go for it.
From video games that I've played, to, I would say a good story. The Last of Us. I was saying this earlier, but I would say The Last of Us is a good story because there's a whole thing as to like you're trying to get the MacGuffin to a designated area, and every time you get to that area, you keep arriving too late, and you have to keep going further and further and further to the point where you get to the place, and then you don't even think that it's going to work. So the main character does what he does. That's very vague. It's not really.
Yeah.
I think what you're kind of explaining more is like tension. You like that tension of like, oh, is it gonna work out or not? And then finally, like it does work out, but the video games, especially The Last of Us, builds up that tension.
Mhm.
Yeah, The Last of Us definitely builds up the tension, and doesn't really have a big payoff. Because the whole thing was like we're trying to find a cure for the thing. You get to the place where they have the MacGuffin ready to make the cure, and then you come in and it's like, no, because the MacGuffin's a living person, and I've been traveling with this living person for 4 seasons, and I'm not going to let you kill the living being, this person, basically. So, no. And then you go rescue her, and then you find out later that she would have rather have had her life taken to create the cure. It's just like a whole convoluted plot. Like I
So
said.
you like
Yeah.
confusing
Good.
things?
Yeah.
Complexity.
Yeah,
Like stories
yeah.
that are intense and complex.
Yeah, I guess so. But making
Is it bad?
making decisions is hard for me. Playing anything by Telltale is nerve-wracking. Even the Borderlands, Tales from the Borderlands is nerve-wracking for me, even though that I played the other games. And that's
So
all.
you don't like to be in charge of making those big important decisions because you feel like if you go wrong, you fail the world.
Yeah, basically, because yeah, you're right. There's actually a point where I was playing Tales from the Borderlands, and something simple as sending a message out into space for an advertisement, I chose something, and then when it got shot out, I was like, I chose the wrong one. I shouldn't have done that. I should have gone with this other one. I'm such an idiot. That's basically what my thought process is, and that's all I have to contribute to this conversation.
Hey, well, I mean, that's actually like I think you might just need to do a little bit of digging, and you'll kind of find those things. Like we have builds tension and complexity with the things that you like, and more the interactive storytelling kind of games, and or more interactive storytelling with video. Yeah, I think there's stuff there, Phil. I think you need to simmer down on that a little bit.
I think he has more knowledge of storytelling than he gives himself credit for. He just doesn't know it.
Definitely,
No.
Yeah, he's
definitely.
he's not good at articulating.
He's not. Yeah, he's not good at. Yeah, like you said, articulating, putting it out to the world in a pretty package.
Yeah.
Well, he did a pretty good job. So I think
No.
we were picking up what you were putting down there. So
I mean, I'm
Wait
pretty
till
sure.
you hear him tell the story.
I'm pretty sure that you guys are the only ones that will be able to understand me whenever I tell a story. Ever. If there's ever a third party, they will never be able to hear me tell a story because they will just lose
know,
their mind.
See, now I want to do a short. It's called Phil's Story Time. And we just have Phil tell a story.
Nope, you don't want
Oh.
that. You don't want that. I'm telling you now, that is something you do
Just
not want.
improvise a story from scratch.
Oh no, that's the worst.
I'd watch it.
Keep a lookout
We-
for
we
it,
have
folks. Phil's
get
Story
him-
Time.
Yeah, get him drunk and then let him tell stories.
Yeah.
watch out for his wrist movement, though. Watch out for that.
Shut up.
Inside jokes.
Yay!
Oh, yeah, that is an inside joke.
All right. So I guess Janine, you want to go ahead and tell us what you think's a good story?
Yeah, sure. All right. So for me personally, I like stories that that have like a big twist, or like they're trying to like throw you off course. Like, oh hey, look at these things over here. Don't pay attention to this stuff over here that's actually really important. So maybe
Yeah.
pay attention to it, but don't. And I like it's gonna sound kind of like sad and morbid, but I like stories that don't have happy, fun endings. Like
No, I get that.
if everyone if everyone dies at the end, like I'm kind of happy about it. Like, oh fuck
This story has a true ending.
yeah. Because I hate when I'm watching a movie or reading a story and like there's this like moment of suspense, but you're like, well, it doesn't really matter because I know that he's gonna make it out in the end. Like he's the main character.
Yeah.
He always makes it out in the end. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
like being proven wrong. Like, oh shit, they just killed him. Oh, okay.
If
Yeah,
you-
yeah.
I
if-
really enjoy that kind of stuff.
If you like stories that don't have like a really good happy ending, you might like the original Full Metal Alchemist.
Hmm.
So I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not gonna throw any spoilers out for an anime that's been out for so long, but you might
For
like
like
it.
20 years.
20 odd years. But yeah, you might be interested in the original Full Metal Alchemist. It is a bit slower than Brotherhood, but there are events from Brotherhood and the original that deviate. So I would recommend giving that a watch.
All right. I also like stories that kind of make you not question, but like kind of broaden your perceptions. I don't know if I'm like saying this in a way that makes sense, but like that just makes you think differently. Like, oh, I didn't think of things from that perspective before, but now, this has made me. Like I didn't think of things that way. So I don't know, just
Yeah,
things
like
that
the eye openers.
Yeah, I like that. So that's kind of what I like. I mean I like rom-coms and like comedies, but like something that I like get really excited about is when I'm caught off guard.
Which is hard to do these days.
Yeah.
I mean, because when you've read it all and you've watched it all, it's hard to surprise you. It's like, you can call anything in a superhero movie these days, and it's like, that's nothing new.
Yeah, that's true.
But it was still fun. And that was the point.
Yeah. All right, so I guess it's my turn then.
Oh,
So
this is good.
I don't know. I'm not your average guy when it comes to stories. I don't need happy endings. I don't need characters who I can relate to. I like very slow, long stories, and I don't like plot-driven decisions. I like decision-driven plot. You know, so there are three stories that I would consider like almost near perfect. That's Breaking Bad, um, Walking Dead, and the basically whole entire Hulk series, um, where like Walking Dead, or yeah, Walking Dead, it's shown a very, you know, you see the characters grow in very definitive stages, you know, when you just pick random episodes out of different seasons, you obviously see that these weren't the same characters from the very beginning. But as you're watching the show, you don't really notice where those changes happened. You know,
Hmm.
there's no
Yeah.
defined line. Or even
Mm.
Breaking Bad, you know, uh, by the end of it, by the end of Breaking Bad, I couldn't see where Walter White was a different character from day one. But when you go back and watch episode one, it's obviously a different character, but still with hints of this character you end with. It's very, it's it spans over several seasons. There's a lot going on. Even the decisions they make, you know, it's not like, oh, we need this person to survive, so Deus ex machina,
Hmm.
everything works out in the end. It's like everything worked out because the character made the right decision. Um, Going into Hulk, like, it's no secret that Hulk is one of my favorite characters, but I can't really relate a whole lot to him, you know? Um, but like the whole entire story is this endless journey between both Hulk and Bruce Banner basically hating each other, you know? Bruce Banner's trying to get rid of Hulk. Hulk just wants to be left alone, no matter who they're fighting. At the end of the day, it comes down to they're always fighting each other. They only put their differences aside when the world needs Bruce Banner smarts or the world needs Hulk strength. And that this again goes into the decision driven plot where they don't get along because the plot needs them to get along. They get along and that furthers the plot.
Hmm.
Hmm. I like that.
Yeah.
I like
I like.
really real stories that sometimes even get a little too close to home, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I get too like with shows like Breaking Bad and Walking Dead. I've only seen The Walking Dead, not Breaking Bad, but when you are able to be with a character for so long that their arc is so much more fluid and you actually they grow with you in a sense almost that
Mm-hmm.
you can't see that drastic change. I enjoy that a lot too. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess it's my turn then.
indeed.
All right. Well,
Um,
so as far as like um my favorite story goes, it's both a movie and a book, and that's Fight Club. And there's a lot going on with it that creates to be why it's my favorite story. I mean, kind of like how Janine said, I'm not really into the happy ending because it kind of, if there's gonna be a happy ending, you fell away, I guess. And so that's kind of always been something that threw me off. And I get halfway through the book, I'm like, because everything's gonna be hunky dory. But with Fight Club, it was more particularly it grasped me because of the rawness in the voice of the author, and how there's this one scene, and I had to put the book down and just like I just had to breathe for a second, just like, oh fuck, because because it was this scene where he's fighting this guy, and he takes this guy's head and he smashes it into the ground, and he describes the teeth splintering in his mouth, and just the way he described that, just that visceral image, I just I just couldn't handle life at that moment. But after I kind of like got over it, I was just like, that's so fucking cool. Like he was able to make me feel that kind of reaction in a story that, you know, and it wasn't even that long of a scene. It was just a couple of sentences that just, man, oh my god, like it gave me chills. But I mean, honestly, like I think all of that, the things that y'all said, like I think all of them together are in a way what I feel like makes the best story. Because Devin talked about an engaging character and heightened drama, and the engaging character is something that you really need to have when you're writing a story, regardless of what's going to happen to them. I mean, maybe they're going to have a horrible ending. Maybe their teeth are going to get splintered into the. As long as you can find a way to have your character be relatable to your reader in some way, shape, or form, then you're going to have a great story. And I think everyone that mentioned their favorite stories, there's strong, engaging characters and all of those things. Yeah, and just tension and complexity, and you know, I really like also what Janine said with broadening the complexity. I have notes, guys. I took notes on this.
It sounds like you took notes. It's like she's just going down the line.
Yeah, because I one, I have a terrible memory, but two, it's because I wrote down the things that I was like, yeah, I like that. So y'all did a really, like, you know, y'all all had, it's really cool because I have it all chunked for each of y'all, and so they're all really different. If you just looked at each of y'all's reasonings, they're all really different stories. But I think that's what's so great about storytelling, is that not everyone has their own not everyone has the same taste in stories. Everyone has something different, and I think that's with storytelling, with creating yourself, that's what you really have to think about. You have to think about how many people you, without diluting your story down to its actual plot and meaning, all that good stuff. So yeah.
Go us.
And I think that's what makes storytelling so fun. Because I know, you know, even, oh god, what am I even trying to say? Blah 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 blah. I can't say the words to formulate the sentences. I got feel in my head.
Yeah, I've infected you.
You just gotta push through it. You just gotta push through it.
Mm-hmm. It's spreading.
I guess either way, it's like I enjoy storytelling in all forms, be it in a video game, be it in a song, be it, you know, of course, in the movies, because y'all know I love film, comics, and just even a novel. I love stories that are engaging in some way or another, you know, like it's been mentioned, you know, that doesn't have to be, you know, the happily ever after for every story. And sometimes those are the most interesting. Those are the ones that make you want to come back to it, because with a happily ever after, it's over. With, you know, when the character doesn't make it to the end, or may not make it to the end, you start to wonder, well, where do we go from here? You know, you're enticed. You want to come back to it because you want to know, well, where do we go? What's next? Because I'm lost without this.
Well, yeah, and that's a really good point. Oh, go ahead, Janine. Do you want to say something?
No, I was just gonna say, like he was saying that, you know, where do we go from here? Another thing that I kind of like, that I know Wyatt just hates, he hates it so much, is an open-ended ending where you're not quite sure. Like it's up to the audience to do it. interpret what
Hey.
happened.
Hey Wyatt,
I'm
And I
about to
kinda-
go off.
Wyatt,
I'm about
did the guy?
But you know what? I kind of like that. I'm like, okay, so everyone is going to experience this movie differently, and they're going to go away with a different, depending on how their emotions were affected by, the story, they're going to have a different ending. And I
Yeah.
like that. I know Wyatt hates it.
So last season of Walking Dead for you.
No, I was okay
Oh,
because it
that's
continued.
beautiful.
Wyatt.
I was okay with that because there was more story, you know?
It wasn't just gonna end there. Oh, if it just ended there, I'd have been like, I'm gonna find Robert Kirkman and I'm going to hunt him down.
But what were you saying, Phil?
I was gonna say, I want to ask you a question. Did the guy land, or did he not land at the end of? Was it Guilty Gear? Not Guilty Gear.
Oh, why are you asking us about guilty?
Air Gear. Air Gear.
Did he land, or did he not land at the end of Air Gear?
Still
Why would
waiting.
you bring that up? Why would you bring that
Hold
up?
on. What I wanted to go off on. What's the name of that show, Janine?
What show?
With the hammer? The hammer is his name?
Oh,
It's
Dr. Horrible.
Dr. Horrible.
Dr. Horrible.
Horrible. I am about to go off on this, all right?
I love Dr. Horrible
waiting
so
time.
much.
She had me watch this. What is it? A movie? A show? What did you call it?
The movie.
It was like an opera.
A movie.
Yeah.
She had me watch this movie, right? And it's about a bad guy. By the way, spoilers ahead. There are spoilers after this part because I can't hold it back, right? I get engaged, right? The good guy is really kind of the bad guy. He's the antagonist, and he's kind of a bad guy too. And like the protagonist is a bad guy, you know. And I'm really liking this. I'm really getting into it, right? I think it's a show at this point. I think it's like an hour-long show at this point, right? So he's trying to get this girl. The bad guy's trying to get this girl as well. And basically, things go down. He ends up killing this girl, right? You know, the woman who he was falling in love with. But because he killed her, he ended up being part of this supervillain group that he wanted to be a part of. That's where it ends. That's
Yeah, and he's like
where
so depressed.
it ends.
Just like,
And hold on. What made me mad? Like that's all good and well, but they go to this supervillain's base, and there are tons and tons and tons of supervillains, right? So we know there's at least, you know, we saw one superhero, but we know he's not the only superhero. And then his best friend has the superpower of sweating. And then I saw all of these, you know, costume superheroes and stuff, and it ends. And I'm ready for episode 2, and there's no episode 2. They created this whole entire universe and told us nothing about it. Like that's one thing I really love about storytelling, universes. That's why I'm so into comic books, you know? Like there's so many comic books, I can never get the full story. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with seeing the universe through, you know, a handful of eyes, you know? But here's this universe that had so much potential. I was so interested in it, and it could have been so good, and they just drop it.
well, then you wouldn't have like. I think we have to think about the reaction that the out of the audience, because I had the same reaction too when I first saw it. I was like, "What? That's it? Are you freaking kidding me?" And I was real mad for like a day, and then I like thought about it. And I was like, "Oh, well, he deserved it. You know, his actions led him to that point." So, but if it kept going, then maybe he would have like slowly gotten over her, and you know he would have made up for it somehow. But no, they wanted.
He could have easily been a Mr. Freeze character. Mr. Freeze never gets old. No,
that's true. That's true. But I think he had too much goodness in him.
At the end of the story, he becomes the villain that he wanted to be for so bad, and then realizes that's not really who he needed to be.
And
But
that's the
he's gotta accept
story.
it.
Yeah, that's the story I wanted to see. You know, this villain who is now one of the big leaguers who doesn't want to be a villain anymore. You know, it's not what he wanted. I wanted to hear that story, and that's a story I never get to hear.
Well, yeah, and I think that's for me. I mean, I started my writing as a novelist. Now I'm trying to dial it back down into short stories because that's kind of just where I am with my with fiction right now. And it's really hard to for me because it's like I love world building. I love just creating universes and just having just taking the characters like they're little like Barbie dolls and going, "Okay, we're going to explore this
Mhm.
whole thing and we're going to do everything in here." But with short stories and with what Dr. Horrible was, you have such a limited amount to tell the story, but you don't want to not have the world building in there, even though you're telling such a small. So that's a struggle with shorter works, is because you need to do as much world building with shorter works than you do as you do with novels and series and movies that go on and on and on forever. You know. So you just kind of
Yeah,
yeah. So it is really frustrating, but think of all the fan fiction that comes with
That's what I was gonna say. Like,
it.
there's so much room for fan fiction. Like, there's this whole
Yeah,
universe, and
but
like
yeah.
I understand why it's frustration with it not being fleshed out, um, and explored more. But it leaves it up to the imagination of the viewer.
but
Yeah.
here's my thing, right? So we have a character who they introduce in those stories like, hey guys, don't let me forget to tell you what happened at the gas station yesterday, and then the person who was going to tell the story leaves, so you never find out what's happening at the gas station. You know, that's kind of
That's
how I
totally a
feel.
film way of telling
Yeah,
stories.
Yep.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure I've done that in the past before.
but
Well,
but
yeah.
getting into like fan fiction, let's take Steven Universe, right? They have a huge, fan base with a bunch of fan fiction. Like Steven Universe is telling a story about Steven and is going from beginning to end, and I know what the writer has in mind. I know what they envisioned, while all of the other gems back on Homeworld are left up into interpretation, which I'm fine. I don't feel like there's a story that I don't know about.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
Can I geek?
definitely.
Oh, sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead, Devin. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say, can I geek on you real quick?
Go ahead.
I'm gonna blame it all on Joss Whedon because I know Dr. Horrible is a Joss Whedon product, and there's a tendency for his stuff to not really end the way you want it to. You look at Buffy, and it didn't end with the show. There had to be a comic afterwards because he wasn't done telling the
Mhm.
story.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and that's understandable. He needs to
Serenity and
cancel.
Firefly's the same way.
I don't know,
Go
just
ahead.
like he just left it so open, and it was a story I was more interested in than the original story. So I felt left unwanted, like
You
they
felt
didn't,
abandoned.
like he didn't care about. I felt abandoned. I don't like
Oh,
feeling that way.
Wyatt. He needs a hug.
I do need a.
Don't give Wyatt hugs. He doesn't need hugs. He needs to put his big girl panties on and deal with it.
Hey Wyatt,
Hug speaking.
get good.
It's okay, Wyatt. I feel you. I feel where you're coming from, but
What?
I know how to deal with an open-ended issue like that.
I'd rather have a story that never ends, like Hulk, rather than a story that just straight up isn't told.
So, what about like subplots and things like that? Do you feel okay with those being left kind of to the imagination, or just the main
Yeah,
plot is what you really?
I'm okay with subplot uh, I guess as long as it's not too much. Like if they were to go from Doctor Horrible and then all of a sudden a new character, and there's more of Dr. Horrible to be left. I'm not okay with, as long as, the main story, as long as that's taken care of, I'm okay with fanfics for the side stories.
Okay. What do y'all feel about, kind of to go off the subject, what do y'all feel about, I know Janine's okay with it, but deaths and character, like suffering and struggles and things like that?
When you say
Kill 'em
How do
all.
y'all feel?
when you say deaths, do you mean like deaths to main characters?
Yeah.
Actually, one of my favorite shows killed off a main character on like episode 8. Is dang it. Spoiler warning again.
Yeah,
Right
I know
now.
the spoiler warning. Was it?
For Gurren Lagann?
Yeah, I was just about to ask, was it
Oh.
Gurren Lagann? Because Gurren Lagann did the
Yeah.
exact same thing.
Yeah.
And you're lying.
Gurren Lagann.
You lied to me, Wyatt. He did come back at the end.
No,
Season
he
2.
didn't.
He came back in season 2 as a
Hold on, wait.
As a
As that ghost?
As a
That doesn't
phantom.
count.
as a phantom. He came back as a phantom. You lied to me. Sorry, I had to get that
That
out.
was some Deus Ex BS right there.
Yeah, because
But so yeah, they spend like the first 8 episodes or so. I forget how many episodes exactly, but
and the first scene of the
there's
show, the first scene of the show is you see this tall dude wearing this awesome
Yeah.
cloak with you don't really get a good look at him. All you see is a silhouette and a logo on his back, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go and do this thing," and then he like turns around and walks off. And then you see Kamina, who
or Big Bro.
But
to
yeah.
keep it easy.
Yeah, you get Big Bro, and then he obtains a cloak that looks the same, and he's always going about how he's gonna be the best because he is. Right?
Yeah.
And then like episode 8 happens, and it's like, oh, then he dies. Oh, okay.
Like basically what happened, because there's Big Bro and there's like Little Bro, and Little Bro's kind of introduced as like a side character, like you're just like, oh, he's cool, he's gonna grow up and be strong just like Big Bro, and so we go through 8 episodes where Big Bro, he's the focus, right? He even starts a love interest, and we learn about his father who came to the surface before him, So everything is pointing to this guy as the main character.
Mhm.
Episode 8 comes, right? They do this thing where, they're like, oh, he's going to die, but it's anime. So I'm like,
It's like
he's going to be okay. He's going to go. Nope, he's dead.
Little Bro's gonna come in, find his inner strength, and he's gonna come in and he's gonna be like, "Oh, I saved you, Big Bro," and then that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. Big Bro stays dead.
Mm-hmm. Until he comes back in as a ghost.
It was one of the 2 animes I almost cried at.
Wow.
I don't know. I started watching that same thing and didn't get that same reaction. I
Because you're not a 12-year-old boy.
You're not a 12-year-old boy like
I
Russell.
thought
What
it
happened?
was pretty obvious that the younger one was the main character and not the older one. And when he died, I was just like, oh, okay, he died.
No heart at all.
I don't know. I guess maybe it's just because I'm not a 12-year-old boy.
like the 2 of us. I mean, I didn't cry at it, but Wyatt did.
Wyatt did.
Yeah.
I had a deep connection to Big Bro. A deep connection.
Anyway.
It's okay, why? It's okay.
Well, well, for me, I mean, with characters dying, like I'm always really upset. Like, when you find out, I'm not gonna say spoilers like you guys do, but when you find out who Negan kills in The Walking Dead, I was pretty upset for a couple weeks. I was about ready not to watch the show, but I mean, I kind of come to terms with it after a while. I have my grieving process, and I go through the 5 stages until I get to acceptance, and And then I
Oh,
watched the next one.
Dabbed up.
that's another thing. That was another day the world was quiet. I got into work Monday.
Perfect.
Like,
Oh,
I mean, I understand.
you like cut out all of that.
Yep.
Yeah,
You
I
walked
didn't
just
hear
like on
anything after
Monday.
Monday.
You walked to work on
One
Monday.
more time. I got to work on Monday after that premiere, and the world just seemed sad and cold. Like, I know
Yeah.
there are some folks I've watched reaction videos of that episode, and to watch these people break down is the saddest and funniest thing all at the same time.
Well, yeah, because it's sad because you'd grow to love that character, but at the same time, it's like it's fiction. Just stop taking it so seriously. But yeah, though that Monday, like my coworker came up to me and he goes, "How you feeling?" And I go, "Don't." I just look at him real stone faced. I was like, "Don't even talk to me. Just go. Just keep walking. Just keep going."
Do you want to end up the same way? No, I didn't think so.
But that was rough to watch because most of us, we sat and watched it together, and that was a very rough scene to sit through.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think with that too, I mean, it really does also depend on the way the character dies, because the character who I'm thinking about, who sure you all are thinking of, that was the shittiest way for him to go. Like all
Yeah.
of the things that they've been through and everything like that. I was just like, and you have to just watch it happen, and you're like, no, I want to save you, but I can't.
But I think that goes back to
I wasn't about to save him. I'm too black for that.
I would just, I'd just hug Negan, just take him out with a hug, and just be like, it's okay. I can change you.
Well, all right.
I
Then.
think that goes back to good storytelling, and we spent so long with that character, and when you're watching it week to week, that character becomes part of your family, whether you want him to or not. And when it happens, it's like losing a family member and watching it happen. There's losing a
Yeah.
family member and not being there, but then there's losing a family member and watching it happen. It pulls at your soul, not just your heart. It pulls at your soul. I'm not gonna lie.
like-
I'm a big monkey, and I teared up a little bit.
No, I like it was. I mean, also because of just the way the gore factor was in and everything, and because of I had this great affection to the character. I almost threw up. I like had to run to the bathroom because it was really a real moment, and I was not prepared, and I had just eaten. I was not prepared. So
Wait. You knew.
what?
You knew a character was gonna go.
We
Like
knew
that.
one was going to go.
Yeah.
Honestly, I thought it was gonna be Eugene, so I was kind of like, meh, whatever.
Oh, poor Eugene. That man gets no love.
So, but it wasn't. And that is all the spoiler I will say. Very emotional about it.
Can we say a rule for spoilers? Our rule for spoilers? Unless we are giving a spoiler warning. Anything that is over 3 years old.
Was it 3 years old in
Watch
5
that.
seasons or something like that?
I think it was 3 years old in 5 seasons. If it's over 3 years old or in 5 seasons in, or 5 seasons ago, then it's free game.
Was it 5 seasons or 3 seasons? There's something along
I think it
those
was
lines.
5 seasons. 3 years
5
old in 5
Let's
seasons.
go.
Yeah.
So
What's
I
my
could
son?
just, without spoilers, I could just be like, everyone's dead and lost. That's what happens. Everyone's dead.
Yep, you can
Yeah,
actually,
yeah, you could
yeah,
It's pretty
All
good.
right, cool.
because it's been over 3 years and it's been over 5 seasons. So
All right, good to know.
that is our rule on spoilers.
All right.
Glad we make these guidelines during the podcast rather than before or after.
Yeah, okay. I understand where you're coming from. Probably should have said it way before Strange, but oh well.
It's cool. It's cool. I don't mind. And I doubt our listeners will mind. the whole 12 of them,
Yeah.
including us.
Hey, say what you want, but we appreciate all of you.
No, I appreciate y'all, you 12 wonderful people.
Yeah, pass it on to your friends.
So it can get 12 more
Blood
people.
Club.
Yay! Then we'll have a 24. I almost said a baker's dozen. That's 13. I'd be wrong.
I was about to say, wait, a baker's dozen?
Yeah, all right. So, yeah, so stories and things, I guess. Have y'all ever tried to pick your hand at a story before?
Well, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I dabble every now and then.
Oh, dabbling, huh?
Hmm.
What's
Wait, I didn't get your question.
like? So my question was if y'all have ever, I like the word Wyatt used, dabbled in writing before. And then also maybe what kind of genre do y'all feel?
So I guess I'll go because I'm not really good at storytelling or writing stories. And Wyatt is always trying to get me to write things.
No, hold on. You're good at it. You just don't want to believe you're good at it.
No, I'm really bad at it. Like,
No, she's pretty good.
He'll start little like role play scenarios, and we did one for Star Wars, and we've done like some other things like Minecraft and whatnot. And we'll go back and forth, with the story, and it'll take me like 3 hours to write a paragraph. And then, like, the whole time I'm like, this paragraph sucks. This is the worst. Why would a character do this? I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing in this story.
That doesn't mean you're bad at storytelling. That just means
No,
you're
no.
terrible at actually sitting down and writing because you're pushing your head.
It's the getting started part that's the hardest
Yeah.
part.
Because
I do
like
that all the fucking time.
no, but like she'll sit there and she'll go back and forth. She'll write something, delete it, write something, delete it, write something, delete it. When she finally posts it, it's great.
I wouldn't use that
It's
word.
fantastic.
I'm gonna tell Janine, but then everyone else who's listening, don't delete your work. Always just keep going. Keep going when you write something. Don't delete it because then you'll never know if it was good.
So
pep talk. Bam.
well, thank you. But to answer your question, no, I don't really write because words is hard.
I know for me, I've never like sat down and dabbled in writing, but creating stories has always been relatively easy for me because of the amount of reading and watching that I've done over my short/long 28 years of living. Coming up with stories on the spot is fun for me. Like improv it's fun. I like to see what I can come up with just by, responding to a given situation. A good example of that was that night that we all sat and played D&D. I was not expecting to get into playing the character as well as I did. But that stuff is fun for me, coming off the top of your head and creating this story with a group of people out of nowhere. It can be really easy as long as everybody's down for it.
Yeah.
Because there was a point where Phil gave up. Mike just is like, I just want to steal stuff.
I didn't give up. I didn't give up. I was just too inebriated to continue.
You gave up because you couldn't find a door.
Yep.
But it basically got to the point where it was just kind of like me and Wyatt going back and forth telling the story for a little bit, playing these characters. And I don't know, it's fun for me.
One of my favorite things about that night is Devin was this pacifist monk-esque guy, and the first chance he got, he punches a guy so hard that he turned into mist.
Yep. That was his backstory.
No, the backstory was he was a pacifist monk guy. The mystifying of a person was the first encounter we had.
Yeah.
That's right. Like I said, I enjoy improv. I enjoy telling stories. It's just I've never sat down and wrote one. And if I did, it would probably be a horror story.
Yeah,
that's just
I
me.
could gather that from your love of horror.
My oh so demented and dark thought process on life. Put it that way.
Yeah.
May I? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say that, like I said before, I'm not too big on writing, or like I said, my stories are basically just little shorts playing out in my head, and like they make sense to me, and like I can paint a picture, but it wouldn't be a very good picture, and the narrative and the story would just be just all kinds of fucked. Like no one would be able to make sense of it but me.
No,
So-
I'll tell you what it is with Phil. He's really big on big action set pieces. That's what Phil likes. He likes to give
Yeah.
you this big action scene, and he wants you to help him, play it out.
Build a narrative around it.
Yeah.
Make the
He's been
ending.
watching too much Monty. That's what it is.
Yeah, probably. Build make a scene and then build the story around the scene. That's what my thought process basically boils down to. Whenever I'm telling stories to myself in my own head.
Yeah, mine's always kind of the opposite. Mine is well, it's not really opposite, but it's I just like having people talk to each other, and then they slowly build out the scene around them. So it's just basically two people going back and forth, and then I could just see what I can reach out and be like, oh, where are they right now? Let's see where they are.
I do some stuff every now and then when I need a break from dealing with ZBrush. I'll sometimes write. Most of the time, I just write notes for things because I don't want to lose my idea, but I don't want to sit down and like write everything out because I know I won't the next day. I won't continue it the next day. But no, every now and then I'll write part of a story and stuff. I'm not really specific on a certain type of story.
But he
I
likes
had a pretty good Star Wars thing going with me and Wyatt a while back. No one joined in on, so I kind of just figured out because we were both in different parts of the galaxy.
Janine made a
It's
character.
like these characters are never going to meet.
Yeah, you made the world too big. It was.
Yeah, I
it
was
too-
trying to get to Wyatt. I kept trying to get there, and then eventually we didn't.
Because like how I figured like it was going to work out, like she was going to end up at the base that I was going to end up at, and like we'd end up fighting, and then like be like, oh no, and then like we'd escape and whatnot.
We didn't make a
United
plan
under a
going into
common
it. I think that was
enemy.
our fault.
Just kind of improvising off of each other.
Yeah.
But
It's like,
I don't
I'll
know.
start at Korobal and you'll start wherever the hell you are, and
Because we
just
had a
talk
lot
over
of
it.
people at first, so I figured it'll all work out.
So yeah, then I was like, oh wait, no one's here, just Wyatt. Okay, well.
I got caught up in work. I'm sorry. I had a character made out and everything.
Caitlin, I think you need to join us whenever we do D&D ever again, if we ever do it again.
Yeah,
I'm
we
so
need to.
upset. Oh my god, you have no idea.
I just
my problem is that I feel like my ideas are dumb.
Yep, I'm right there
And
along with you.
like anything that my character does, like everyone else is gonna judge me and be like, "She's bad at this. Why is she do? Who invited this chick?
That's not.
Why is
That's
she
why
here?"
That's why
Here's
you
the thing
need
with
to
that.
play
The
with
key to
me,
that is
because-
embracing that.
Yeah, well, when you play with me, I'm gonna be the most ridiculous person at the table. So anything that you say is not. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm just to be like, oh, fireball! We're at a market. Fireball!
Like I literally, like the two characters who I played as, one was literally this like half dragon thing, and I was given the choice of having a dragon tail or dragon head. I picked the tail because I seduced an enemy and took them as a partner through a dungeon. The other one, I rolled like a 2 on intelligence, and basically I basically ran up to it and was like, brother? Because I was I was a warforged, which is this giant like metal synthetic like warrior. So anytime I would see anything humanoid that was like made of rock or something, I would think it was family.
I only asked if I can keep my previous character that we've already created because I had some really good rolls.
The one that couldn't find a door?
Yep.
You know how hard it was teaming up with him?
It was amazing how I convinced this monk warrior guy to come on this adventure with us.
That's right. You were supposed to be the one with the silver tongue.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got us into more trouble every time you spoke.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, you did have a crap ton of charisma, huh?
Yeah, that's the only reason why I want to keep my last character. If we ever do something else.
Oh,
That was the
yeah.
best.
I had like 20 charisma.
Never partner with Phil ever again.
Look,
That's why we don't break off into groups. Something happens if the guy gets away, screw it, he gets away.
no, look, this is the thing.
Oh yeah, everyone did split up, huh?
Devin,
Yep.
Devin got to a bar because he needed to cope with the man that he just mystified, and then started
It's because I had to come to peace with what I just did.
and then started drinking the entire bar out of house and home, and then
Hey, I can handle it.
and then when the bill came, even though none of us have any money, the bill came. He just stands up and then walks out.
You know what? If anybody has ever wondered, and I know there are a lot of folks who have wondered what I'm like drunk, watch me play a drunk character. That's probably what I'm like. I don't drink, so that's probably what I would be like.
Excuse me,
I don't
sir, I
always
need you to
drink.
pay your time.
I don't always drink, but when I do, I cry about how much I love everyone in the room. So
I just become annoying, even more so.
Yeah,
Even more so than I already am.
I agree with you.
We call him the Rubber Man.
Yeah.
But yeah,
What were
and
we
then
talking about?
I was trying to get us back on topic. I was gonna say, so the ladies and stuff that I draw because I like drawing sassy ladies. Wyatt likes to come up with backstories for them, and so we've developed like a whole like universe and how they're related to each other, even though that's not how I draw them. So yeah, Wyatt really likes universes and world building.
character building.
I
Yeah.
Yeah.
even connected her sexy ladies into one of my sci-fi universes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, you can like draw all his characters that he creates.
His characters are all big, bulky, and metal.
Yeah,
That's
I
that sci-fi.
draw-
man.
like
I draw
Like,
soft
how- this is-
ladies.
this is how I choose how my characters in MMOs. Is it the biggest? Is it human? If it's the biggest, it's chosen. If it's human, it's probably not chosen.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have to say about stories, I suppose.
Yeah, unless someone wants to tell us what their favorite story is, like favorite of all time,
Yeah.
Oh, that's hard. That is so hard.
or even like what your go-to movie is. Like if there's a movie that you can just watch over and over and over, what that would be.
Space Jam and
already
Lost
said-
in Space.
Space Jam.
Mm-hmm.
Wait,
Space Jam
stop.
is amazing.
Everybody stop. No one breathe. He just said Space Jam and Lost in Space.
Yeah,
Like the 90s Lost in Space.
yeah, with Danger Robinson family. Danger Robinson family. Yeah, that's what.
Oh my god. Tell you what, I'll make you feel. I don't have Space Jam, but I do have Lost in Space.
I have both.
Thank you.
Wow. I would never peg Lost in Space as somebody's go-to movie.
Uh-huh. I could watch that for hours and hours and hours.
See, it's hard for me because I've seen so much. I wouldn't even know how to narrow it down. I don't know. Somebody else go. Come back to me.
Well, I already said mine was Fight Club, so
I'm sorry. What was the question?
What?
Phil's been drinking.
Well, what's your go-to movie that you can watch like over and over again?
Element.
Boondock Saints.
Yeah.
hey, that's a pretty great movie too.
No, it is. It is. But it's even better when you try to listen to Phil do a really bad Irish accent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
totally.
Philip's pretty decent at his little accents.
No, I'm joking. We can Phil and I go back and forth with it. It's fun.
Yeah.
So fuck you and your fucking rule.
Well, that certainly illustrates the diversity of the word.
So mine, I have two. Yeah, I have two that I can think of off the top of my head. And even though, like I said, my favorite kinds of stories are like the ones without happy endings where, you know, people
Oh
die.
my
and
gosh,
stuff.
she's gonna say Princess Bride.
No, actually, my favorite that I could just watch over and over is The Road to El Dorado.
El
That's such a good
Dorado.
movie too.
I know,
Y'all
yeah.
have some good choices. I like this.
And then The Little Mermaid because
That was her
I was
favorite.
born in the late 80s. Yeah.
That's her favorite of all time. She used to sing it.
Everyone used to sing it, Philip. Everyone.
I only sang it because
But yeah.
I was
entire movie?
the whole entire movie.
Everyone used to sing the whole entire movie.
Yep.
Yes, the entire movie.
I actually
Yeah,
did
but-
I did a talent show where I sang the thing where she was in the cave thing, talking about all her stuff that she has, and I'm satisfied with her life.
And her what's it?
Yeah,
score.
so like it's a movie that people like because
Yeah.
songs and pretty colors.
All the stuff that she sings about,
Yeah.
dingle hoppers and things like that.
Oh god, has it worked back to me already?
Yep.
Hmm.
Wow. I guess I have a couple. So one of them would definitely be the original Ghostbusters
Banana.
because that was one of the first VHSs I had as a kid, along with the 1989 Batman and DuckTales, the movie.
Woo.
Yeah, my world is a little weird, but that one and probably the 1989 Batman that introduced me to Batman before the animated series came out, and y'all know I love me some Batman. So
Oh, and he loves you too, Devin.
oh god, we'll talk about that story someday.
No.
Someday.
No, we can't. It has to be a secret. Batman told you not to talk about it.
But
No.
I have to get
No.
it out. If I don't get it out, it's just going to bug me for the rest of my life.
Devin. Devin, are you talking about the
Oh
thing?
god, he's here. Oh god,
Devin, what did I
where's
tell you
my
about that?
butt But yeah,
All
those
right. So,
Ghostbusters and the 1989 Batman. Those would probably be my go-tos for forever. I could watch it any day of the week and any time. Yeah.
all right.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And even more perfect. It just,
Keeps on going.
yep.
Just let it ride.
Well, this is fun, guys.
Don't
Yeah,
forget to cut
all
all
right,
this out.
so-
You got
Yeah.
2 weeks
No.
to cut this out.
Yeah. Just let it ride.
Too?
What's up?
You want me to close too?
Yes.
Yeah, it's your episode.
Scheiße.
All right. Okay. All right.
She's got to prep herself. Me.
Okay. All right. All right, guys. So this has been our podcast about what makes a great story or a good story or whatever it is we want to see in stories, and hope it was something that y'all could relate to. Maybe there's some things that y'all might want to add to what y'all feel like makes a great story down in the comments, or else we can post things. I don't know how this internet thing works, but but I just stories are great, and I think we talked a lot about that in all our favorite stories. So I guess we'll just end it here, and I am the new C.S. Lewis, or Caitlin, as my friends like to call me, and with me is
Dev the Doc.
I'm Phil.
I
I'm
hate you
Janine.
so much.
And I'm Wyatt.
all right. Oh, wait.
Wyatt.
Something else was to say? I don't know.
Wyatt, you know what to do.
You have to
Play
tell
us
Wyatt
out.
to play us out.
Oh yeah,
I
Wyatt.
don't know when to do it. I need you guys to tell me.
He needs direction. You have
Wyatt.
to do it.
No, you started too early. You started too early. You started too early.
That sounds like something like you're making him do something sexy, but he really doesn't want to do
That
it.
actually is a lot. It sounds a lot like that. All right, now give it a pause and then start over from Caitlin.
Wait, what?
I said give it a pause and start it over from where Caitlin.
All right, what?
He wants you to redo the outro.
Yeah, redo the outro.
Okay, gotcha. What do I do it?
Just
It's up to you.
I had one in me. I don't know, you guys. Okay.
Okay,
All right.
Caitlin.
no,
Okay.
no, just tell Wyatt to play us out.
Yeah.
Oh, just that?
Yeah.
So we don't need
Okay.
to introduce ourselves again.
No.
All right. Hold on. Okay, for a pause, and then I'm gonna say it. Okay. All right, Wyatt, take us out.